Good morning, everyone, and just want to thank all of you for joining us. We're going to have a great conversation about a civilian climate core proposal, which has a very good chance of passing the United States Senate and House and being put on President Biden's desk if we just keep fighting. And if we do that, we can ensure that jobs and justice are at the heart of that program. And by the way, we're making progress. We're not really near the finish line yet, but we have a chance, a good chance to make progress on legislation that could change our country and the planet for a generation and more. And that work is not yet done. And we wouldn't be half as far as we are without the tireless work of so many people on this call. And it's an honor to be with so many climate leaders, policy experts, and local core members from across Massachusetts who have been on the forefront of our movement to pass a civilian climate core. And I'd like to introduce Becca Ellison. Becca is the Deputy Policy Director at Evergreen, who has been instrumental in writing and crafting our legislation from the very start. Jasmine Nee, a Sunrise Boston Hub Coordinator, who has been on the front lines of the movement to pass a civilian climate core in our Commonwealth's capital. Leslie Melendez, the Deputy Director of Groundwork Lawrence, a group that is doing incredible conservation and climate adaptation work across Massachusetts, Merrimack Valley. Raphael Cartagena, Groundwork Lawrence's Green Team leader and a former Green Team member. Raphael is a perfect person to talk with us about how we can create not only jobs, but careers through our core program. And Nina Peppers, Program Manager at the Massachusetts Historic Preservation in Public Lands Core, an AmeriCorps program that will serve as a model for the nation as we build out the civilian climate core. This past April, I was proud to stand alongside my friend, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, to introduce a revolutionary twist on an old program, the Civilian Climate Corps. Our Civilian Climate Corps would update and modernize and expand on the concept of the New Deal era Civilian Conservation Corps, and this time ensure that justice and climate action is at the heart of every job created and every project which is completed. The CCC is all about livable wages with benefits, on-the-job training from local unions, sweat equity that builds racial, moral, and political equality, work that rebuilds the economy and saves the planet all at the same time. President Roosevelt's CCC mobilized millions of Americans, but it left far too many Americans on the outside looking in. We can honor the CCC's founding while acknowledging its imperfections and its flaws. This is our opportunity to reinvent, reimagine, and rebuild America with the Civilian Climate Corps. Massachusetts has a reputation as a revolutionary state, but we're already building a clean energy workforce revolution in the Bay State, and this is going to help to expand it ever more. We're home, thank goodness, to a number of local core programs already working on climate adaptation and conservation strategies, and we're lucky that Massachusetts will yet again serve as a model for the rest of the nation. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about some of those programs today and how we can use our already existing local programs as a foundation to build a national scale CCC. So I'd love to hear from our guest. And again, I'd love to first introduce an incredible young activist, Jasmine Nee, a hub coordinator for Sunrise Boston. Welcome, Jasmine.
Yeah, thank you so much, Senator Markey. I'm so grateful to be here today. Hi everyone. My name is Jasmine. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm 17 years old. I'm a rising senior at Sharon High School in Sharon, Massachusetts on Wampanoag and Massachusetts land, as well as an organizer with the Boston Hub for Sunrise Movement. In this moment we're in right now, it's a scary thing to turn on the news. Almost without fail, we hear about yet another region of the country experiencing floods or fires or droughts or storms that put countless families and communities at risk. I'm a member of the generation that has to live with this climate crisis, a crisis that is the product of negligence from past generations and people in power who decided to turn a blind eye. I understand that the reality is my peers and I are not walking into a world or into a workforce that has the space nor the opportunities we need to adequately respond to this emergency. When you look up Sunrise, our website will tell you that we are a youth movement dedicated to stopping climate change and creating millions of good jobs in the process. The Civilian Climate Corps does just that. Not only does it create 1.5 million good paying and community serving jobs for young people like myself, it's also a promise that the world we're going to inherit will be safer, cleaner, more just, and more livable. We are seeing every day this growing need for big, bold, action-filled legislation, and the CCC is a key aspect of an infrastructure package that could fill that need. I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation today about why we need a Civilian Climate Corps. Thank you.
Beautiful. So thank you for those great words. And now I'd like to invite Nina Peppers, a project manager at the Massachusetts Historic Preservation and Public Lands, to say a few words about her local core program.
Yeah, thanks, Senator Markey. My name is Nina Peppers. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm here representing the Student Conservation Association. We are a national organization, and our mission is to build the next generation of conservation leaders and inspire lifelong stewardship of the environment and communities by engaging young people in hands-on to the land. Here in Massachusetts, we have two really amazing programs, both AmeriCorps programs. One is the Massachusetts Conservation Corps, also known as MAC. They're based in the western part of the state, and they focus on conservation projects like trail maintenance, park accessibility, invasive species removal, and just like really taking care of the conservation of public lands that we have in Massachusetts. The program that I run, the Historic Preservation Corps, we focus on structures and buildings and historic preservation. So also an AmeriCorps program. The saying is the greenest building is one that's already standing. And that's the work that we do. So our members do things like historic window restoration, which makes buildings more energy efficient, while also preserving that historic material. We also serve on the Boston Harbor Islands, making sure that those buildings remain standing despite some of the climate change that is happening. So both AmeriCorps programs, we're really excited to be a part of the conversation. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for your great work. And now I'd like to introduce Becca Ellison, the Deputy Policy Director at Evergreen, a group which has been integral to the development of the Civilian Climate Corps. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Senator, both for bringing together this group of folks and also for your incredible leadership on this program and on a host of other climate and clean energy priorities that we need to get through Congress this year. I'm so thrilled to be here with this group of people talking about the Civilian Climate Corps. This is a program that will channel the enthusiasm of young people and folks across the country to be able to serve their country, earn a living wage, earn benefits, and gain the training that they need to succeed in the clean energy economy in good paying union jobs. Senator, as you said before, we think this program could be really transformational for climate, for jobs, and for justice. On climate, Corps members can help retrofit buildings, install clean energy programs, and help cities develop action plans so that they're ready. On jobs, we will need a pipeline of workers who are prepared and ready to help build that clean energy economy. And this is a program that can help, as I said, take young people, unemployed and underemployed folks from across the country and put them to work building the clean energy economy and on a pathway to good paying union jobs. And finally, on justice, For too long, Black and Brown communities, low-income communities have been overburdened with toxic pollution after generations of racist policymaking and other structural inequities. And this program could help. The program we're fighting for would devote 50% of its investments to the environmental justice communities and also would recruit 50% of its members from those communities. So we're really thrilled, Senator, to be working with you and other members of Congress to make this program a reality alongside all of the needed climate and clean energy investments this year. So thank you so much.
Beautiful, great job. Thank you so much. And next up is my friend, Leslie Melendez, the Deputy Director of Groundwork Lawrence, a group in the Merrimack Valley that will serve as an example of the type of climate core work that can be done in communities across the country. Welcome.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for having us and putting this roundtable together. Groundwork Lawrence has been doing this exact type of work for over 20 years now in the city of Lawrence, and expanding the work to the surrounding cities and towns. But one of the things that we noticed very early on working with our youth was that it wasn't just enough to get them involved because of the home life and the situations that they were in. We had to do more. We had to value what they were doing and make sure that they were getting paid for the work that they were doing, right? And so with our Green Team program, we're creating that pipeline that Becca had referred to in her opening remarks. We're creating a group of young people that are working hard to make sure that climate and justice are at the forefront of everything that we're doing through tree planting, through river cleanups, through their work as ambassadors in the community, getting the word out. So as part of that work, it is really important for us at the local level to make sure that we're supporting these programs at the federal level, because it will benefit everything that we're doing here and across the Commonwealth. And as you said, Senator, Massachusetts is always on that fast track of doing this work very early on and being that leader in the industry. So we are very happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
No, thank you so much for all your work. And as you know, my father grew up on the first floor of a triple decker up in Lawrence. And I went up, making that tour of all the great work you're doing up there to kind of restore the relationship between Lawrence and nature. And it's just incredible work. And it's work that we can scale dramatically if we pass a civilian climate core. It's just absolutely critical that people think of this not just in terms of the traditional CCC of the 1930s out in more rural America and out in the forest, but in this modern era in the cities as well, so that we're focusing upon those issues and bringing in civilian climate corps members to partner and expand what you're already doing. So thank you for that great work. And now I'd like to introduce Rafael Cartagena, Groundwork Lawrence's Green Team leader and a former Green Team member himself. Rafael knows how integral these core programs can be to the career growth and development of young people in our communities. Welcome, Rafael.
Thank you, Senator, and hello, everyone. Yeah, I've been with Green Team for 7 years now. It was actually my first job as well, and it was a crazy, most amazing experience ever because of the fact that I was able to really learn more about the environment, learn more that Lawrence needs it. Lawrence needs to value its rivers, its sanctuaries where we can go to the parks. Because me as a kid, 14 years old, my first job, I didn't know much about Lawrence. I wasn't aware of the parks and how much they value and how much nature was important and integral in just the living of the city. So as a person that was able to do this for 4 years, working at Groundworks Green Team and learning and trying to put my best foot forward in creating better spaces for us, green spaces, it was really big in my life. And later on, I volunteered many years after, even after I graduated from high school and college. And even now, when I came back as a leader, I saw the work that I have done and saw that there's still work to be done, but yet that the work is there. There's so much that we've done, so much parts that look so much different than when I was a kid to now, that has really dramatically changed how the green spaces are being used and how so many people are valuing now our nature, our rivers, how people are able to fish in the river, how people are able to enjoy the different birds that come by, and really understand that these things were here before us, and these things will surpass us, and we need to value them, and we need to take care of them, because this is our world, and this is where we want to start and want to keep going and cleaning and continuing to make better.
So thank you so much, and thanks for the incredible dedication which you have to this program and to all the young people that you have helped to train over the years. Thank you so much for that. And again, you know, these programs are really intended to help young people, especially, move into unions, be able to use what they are learning in order to further their education. So what our legislation calls for is $15 an hour as a minimum that would have to be paid so that it would be there. 50% of the Civilian Climate Corps funds have to go to environmental justice communities, and 50% of our Corps members must come from those same communities like Lawrence, but other historic environmentally justice challenged communities in our country. But the legislation also calls for a big increase in and guarantee of healthcare and childcare to support working families who will be, which will create an additional enticement for people to want to volunteer. And we also give in our legislation $25,000 a year for student loan forgiveness or to pay tuition at public universities in our country as an additional incentive. So not only would the workers receive healthcare, childcare, minimum wage of $15, but also this incredible, if people serve 2 years, $50,000 educational package to help young people to be able to pay back their student loans or to be able to go to a public university of their choice. So why, if people on the call would respond, anyone can jump in. How can we ensure that a Civilian Climate Corps focuses on not only job creation, but career mobilization, so that it's a long-term commitment that people are making?
I'll jump in, Senator. I think one of the things that, you know, is very clear is that the living wage needs to be addressed because we can't expect folks, and yes, they're in service to their country, but we can't expect them to be living below poverty levels, right? So we have to make sure that we're supporting them and working with them. And although $15 is amazing, and it's much more than what AmeriCorps members and Conservation Corps members are making now, you know, as we look at the work that we're doing, you know, we are paying our leaders and our tree crews $18 to $20 an hour to really be able to think about and see what that living wage looks like. We all know that in the state of Massachusetts, a living wage is much higher than that. But if we get to start somewhere where they can at least have a leg up, and we are giving them those opportunities, and then the opportunity to train in fields that aren't always traditionally open and welcome to individuals of color, to Black and brown communities, right? To be able to have the access to those trainings that they wouldn't normally have access to because they don't know about them. They don't know they exist. They don't know they're out there, right? So making sure that we're having those conversations and that the training and the living wage is key to how we move this forward within, you know, within our own organizations and communities, but also across the country.
What you're saying is that we're going to have to recruit, and we're going to build that funding into the legislation so that we'll have outreach into communities that traditionally haven't thought about these kinds of programs. So AmeriCorps will be the foundational governmental agency that will be responsible for the program. They're already doing work in this area. This is going to be very much scaled up in a very dramatic way from what they're already doing, but it'll be, the hub will be AmeriCorps, and then all of the spokes will then be enlarged and the programs enhanced by the funding that we're going to put into this program. And we just have to make sure that we're reaching out into communities that historically may not have had an interest in or even knowledge about this kind of a program. And just, you know, right now, AmeriCorps only pays $7.50 an hour.
Correct.
And they don't have the benefits that we're talking about. So we're actually going to bring in all the AmeriCorps workers as well and give them all of these same benefits. How important do you think that will be?
That's extremely important. And I think it's a very valuable outreach tool, right? If we're going out into our communities and talking about the opportunity to not only serve our communities and serve our country, but to do it in a way that they're making a living wage, that they have healthcare, and that they have this educational benefit that is going to really give them that leg up and that opportunity. But we've got to think about that outreach in non-traditional ways. It has to happen on the ground. It has to be grassroots organizations doing this type of work and doing the outreach, because your traditional posting on places like LinkedIn, Idealist, and things like that is great, but it's not where typically Black and Brown communities go to find opportunities.
Exactly. And I'd like to, again, contrast what the Civilian Climate Corps will be with President Roosevelt's Civilian Conservation Corps. That focused principally upon conservation, and we're going to do that as well. But this has an expanded vision. It will look at clean energy, health, transportation, housing, food systems, so that we're able to look at the totality of all of the intersecting aspects of the climate crisis. Would anyone like to talk about that and how important it is for us to just expand our vision and make sure all aspects of this gets funded?
Happy to jump in on that, Senator. You know, you laid out a lot of the pieces that we're looking at here. We think this program can be expansive. Corps members can complete a variety of projects in Massachusetts and across the country, things like coastal resilience, fighting wildfires, helping to restore parks, helping vulnerable communities become more resilient to the impacts of heat and storms. And I think that's what will prepare us both to tackle the climate crisis and to build the clean energy future that we need. So there are so many projects that are just waiting to be completed. And with a robust level of funding from Congress, we can recruit members, put them to work, doing all of this work that's needed.
And can someone just answer this? Why is it important that young people support the creation of a national jobs program?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in here. I think, I mean, coming from a youth organization, this past, 18 months, like almost 18 months, a year and a half, we've seen a lot of loss. And in addition to a pandemic where we saw so many people lose their lives, and where like so much of the society that we know and how that operates fell apart, we also saw our friends and families like lose their jobs across so many sectors of work. And I know personally, I have a lot of friends who are either going into college or going into the workforce, and they genuinely have no idea how they're supposed to pay rent, find a job, buy groceries, and support themselves in this world that isn't prepared to support their later years of life. And so something like the CCC offers support in so many different areas. Not only is it giving you a job and a way to make a dignified wage, it's also a way for us as the next generation to build up the world that we're going to be living in and to really start this process of healing that we have to come back from, because this is the world that we're going to become the stewards of. And without this kind of financial structural and support in so many different areas, we can't do that.
Thank you. And I think we all agree that it's important that we recruit CCC members from diverse communities. Does anyone have any ideas as to how we could do that, just to make sure that 50% of all the slots go to communities that historically have been left behind?
Yeah, I can speak from my recruiting experience. I think, first of all, it doesn't start at recruiting. I think it starts with building a program that's really inclusive and safe and equitable. And it starts with a staff team that's educated. It starts with a staff team that's maybe also from that local community. You know, for this program, we sat down with a group of local high school students at a trade school, and we asked them what they wanted from a program like this. What would you want from this experience? And we learned from that conversation, and that's what we're trying to build into our program. And when we have that solid foundation, what they're really looking for, that's when we're going to start recruiting from those communities. So if you want your program to reflect your community, you have to invite those voices to the planning table long before you can start recruiting.
No, that's great, great. And for any of you, can you talk about your own local core programs and why it's important to you and why it can be used as a model to be expanded in your own communities, but also across the whole country in this moment of intersecting crisis? Would anyone like to just take your own core and explain it, and then how we could scale it up nationally?
Absolutely. I'll jump right in here. We've been doing Groundwork Green Team since 2004 and started with a small group of 6 students who were being paid a stipend and quickly realized that hourly wages was the way to go, and it needed to happen that way. And we were able to expand our program from 6 to 10 for the school year. And then as of yesterday morning, we were employing 40 young people, 40 high school students here in the city of Lawrence, and 8 young adult leaders to lead them in this work and to pay them that minimum wage, right? And to make sure that they're getting what they need in terms of training and support to create, and you know, I'll go back to Becca's comment about this pipeline, to create this pipeline of young people as early as 14 years old to be able to really care about what's happening in their world, to care about what's happening in their backyard, and to make sure that we, those of us who are in leadership roles now, are doing the mentoring and the conversations and the support that they're going to need to be able to take over, right, Senator? Because you and I are going to eventually retire from this work, but we want to make sure that our young people have what they need to make sure that they are picking up that mantle and doing it. So the core of what Green Team does is really work on projects in the community that relate to the environment, that relate to community engagement, that relate to fresh food. They do trail building, and they go outside of the city to learn some of these skills and then bring them back to the community and to do the work here. The food that they're growing at the half-acre farm that Groundwork Lawrence has, they're donating back to the community. It's not that it's food that we're selling, you know, we are donating this back. We are making sure that they are learning the value of service. They're learning the value of donation. They're learning the value of being a part of their community and being in service with each other.
Beautiful, great answer. So we're going to take some questions from the press, but what I'd like to do is give each one of you 1 minute so that everyone who is on this live stream can hear why you think a civilian climate corps is so important at this moment in time to our country, and why it has to be put on President Biden's desk for his signature this year. So let me give each one of you 1 minute. I'll begin with you, Jasmine.
Yeah. Okay. So I think something that's really obvious whenever you start talking about these issues is that everything is so connected, and all of these issues, all of these systems and cycles of harm in our society right now are continuing to be perpetuated and continue to hurt our communities. So I think that we need to take these big steps, big, bold steps that are very well funded by our government, to really actively combat those systems of harm in all areas. I know when I joined Sunrise, something that stood out a lot to me was the fact that we always use the word dignified. We call the jobs that we want to create dignified. And I think that that's really important because right now we need to really arm young people with a sense of dignity and with a sense of purpose as we move forward in creating a better world.
Beautiful. Well said. Becca, can you give us your 1 minute?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was very well said, Jasmine. And I think this is our moment, both to tackle the climate crisis and to build a clean energy economy that works for everyone. And I think something that stands out to me is that both the people and the projects are there just waiting to be mobilized and put into action. So we have, young people across the country, more than half of voters under 45 say that they would consider joining a civilian climate corps if it's created. And we have the projects, from clearing forests so they're less of a wildfire risk, to retrofitting buildings, to installing clean energy projects. Everything is ready. And it just takes the bold vision from government to put people to work and to begin to build the clean energy future.
Fabulous.
So excited to be here with this group.
Fabulous. Well said. Leslie.
The excitement that I'm feeling right now, just being with these amazing people on this call, and seeing some of the comments that are coming in. This is our time. This is it right now. And, Jasmine and Becca have said it beautifully. This is the time to be bold. This is the time to stand up and take action. This is the time to arm our young people with the tools that they are going to need to make sure that we have a better tomorrow. And that is our job. We need to do this. This has to happen. We are these stewards that need to pass on that mantle, and we need to make sure that our young people are ready for this. And this is the way to do it. This bold, innovative way of looking at how do we take care of tomorrow. And without our young people, that's not going to happen, right? So let's move this forward.
Fabulous. Raphael.
Yeah, Leslie, Becca, Jasmine said it beautifully. It is true. We need to do it because it is so important, especially in the communities, to be knowledgeable, to know what's going on, because a lot of times communities don't know what's really going on in the environment, what's going on around us, because they don't know or have the resources to do so. But with us, with the power that we can have through the Senate and everything like that, we're able to push forward and educate and show that we can be a better tomorrow. Like Leslie said beautifully, we can be a better tomorrow. We can accept and bring back in all these animals that beautifully were here before with all these green spaces. We can beautifully make a better tomorrow. And I feel like that's the best way to say it, is that we need a better tomorrow. And I believe through this, we can have a better tomorrow.
Fabulous. And Nina.
Yeah, the Student Conservation Association, this is what we're built for. This is what we already do, and we already do it really well. We have core programs that are doing really amazing work in the conservation and preservation world. And on top of that, career development is built into our programs. We develop our curriculum knowing that our members are going to need a job when they're done with their service term. So we bring in professionals, we give them the opportunity to train with tradespeople. And, on top of that, also, like, you learn how to work on a team. You learn how to communicate with each other when things aren't going well. And then you learn how to celebrate when things do go really well. So within our programs, maybe we're not creating those career full-time jobs, but we are creating really amazing employees for those positions. So the Student Conservation Association is really excited for the opportunity to expand.
Beautiful, beautiful job. And my staff put together a zine on the Civilian Climate Corps, which we can make available to anyone who is interested. It's really a great summary of all aspects of the program and how it will be organized. 77% of the country supports it. It's getting strong editorial support all across the country. The Seattle Times says the Civilian Climate Corps would be a win-win for climate and equity. But we lay out the component parts of it in our zine. So anyone who's interested, you can contact my office or Sunrise, and they can help you to get access to this, a physical copy of it or an online copy. Love to be able to just keep spreading the message. So thank you all so much for all of the great work you're already doing, and we're going to do our absolute best to expand upon that and make it possible for you to unleash this incredible energy in our country. Young people, especially, who have risen up and want to be a part of the solutions to this problem that has been generationally ignored. And the Civilian Climate Corps has touched something across our country, this latent idealism and practicality that we're going to need in order to solve this problem, but by enlisting hundreds of thousands of young people to be a part of it. So we thank all of you for joining us today, and I'll just stop right there. And if the press has any questions, we'd love to take them.
I have a question, if I can go ahead. Hey, this is Miriam from WVUR. Some of my questions might be in that zine that you mentioned, so I'll definitely try to get a copy of that. But I'm wondering, from a logistical standpoint, how does this work? So do people get hired by the CCC and then get placed with a local organization? Do the local organizations recruit their own people and then they just get paid through the government? Are these year-long projects? Are they open-ended? Is there an opportunity for middle school and high school students to do a summer-long program? If you could just touch on some of that, that'd be helpful.
Okay, well, I'll just lay out the broad strokes, and then maybe people from Evergreen or others could lay out the specific details. But we're going to use AmeriCorps as the umbrella organization. They already have more than 100 of these programs across the country that are in existence, already operating, already in local communities. So we can use that model. We're not going to have to invent something new because AmeriCorps is already doing it. We're going to obviously expand the number of projects that they can institute. The scope of this is going to be much larger than anything they've ever done before. But we're going to use the existing model, and because we know it works, and then those AmeriCorps programs will ultimately become known as the Civilian Climate Corps, but it's not going to be anything new. From Evergreen, would you like to jump in and explain, how you see this thing becoming operational?
Sure. Thanks so much, Senator. And Miriam, I think the exciting thing is it's a combination of a lot of what you laid out. So there's funding for a grant program that would go to corps like the ones on this call who already receive AmeriCorps funding to expand, the great work that they do in communities across the country. There's also money for federal corps like the Public Lands Corps and Jobs Corps that directly hire individuals throughout the country to complete projects. And all of these different programs and projects would be coordinated by a central hub that can make sure that the Civilian Climate Corps is unified, is tangible, is visible. And so it captures the benefits of programs across the country and unifies them towards a singular goal.
Excellent. Are there other questions?
I can ask one more. This would be for Senator Markey. What do you see as being the biggest obstacle to getting something like this passed?
It would be the fossil fuel industry energizing their Republican supporters in Congress just to put up roadblocks to the passage of our large reconciliation bill that will include this, as well as tax breaks for wind and solar and all electric vehicles and new transmission systems and a climate bank and so much more that is going to be needed to deal with the climate crisis that we are in. The Civilian Climate Corps will be a part of that bill, and we're working very hard to work with Republicans on the bipartisan legislation that they're interested in, but then following that, but on the same timetable so that they're passing simultaneously, we need 50 Democratic votes in order to put that on the Senate floor and then have Kamala Harris break the tie on the $3.5 trillion jobs and family infrastructure bill. So it's still a struggle. The Republicans won't want, for the most part, to be spending money at that magnitude. They've already made it quite clear. It's just a continuation of the fact that the GOP now stands for Gas and Oil Party. So we're going to have to come together as Democrats, get the 50 votes of all Democratic members, and then have Kamala Harris break the tie. That's our challenge. And all I can tell you is that Senator Schumer and President Biden are both committed to working hard with all Democrats to get the votes to accomplish that goal.
Alrighty, Senator, I think you're good to wrap it up.
Beautiful. Thank you all so much. This is an exciting program. And it is absolutely critical that we keep our energy levels high so that we can put it on the books and then have hundreds of thousands of young people out there doing this work towards not just having a job, but a career, because it's going to take a generation to remediate what all previous generations have done to God's great creation. So we need to just keep working hard right here. It'll be jobs and justice and climate action at a historic level. And if we do it well, people will look back and say that was one of the greatest moments in American history. And all of you are already a part of it. And we're just going to try to bring in more allies to help you to finish the job. Thank you all so much, everybody. Thanks for all your great work.